know where the cloud is.
Okay, great. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I can explain it to you after, Eileen, how to find the link. I'm Jewel, and this is episode 3 of Embracing Menopause, Personal Transition Stories. And I'm so thrilled to have you all here and continue this discourse that I really need during this time as I'm entering menopause myself. I'll talk a little bit briefly how this came to be and why I think it's so important. In my heart, I know it's really important, and I'm doing it purely for selfish reasons. I'm hosting this because I want a support network. I felt very alone going through perimenopause because most of my friends are younger than me, and I'm fairly young myself as menopause goes. I know there's no real age, but I don't know too many women who have gone through it, and my mom's passed away, and so I really desire to have these discourses, and I love hearing people's stories and wisdom, and I believe the more we share, the deeper I go into my own acceptance of this change. And everybody's stories so far have touched me deeply, like resonated with me, and I really feel that this is something that we should be talking more about. It's been shrouded for so many years in shame. You know, my grandmother and my mother certainly didn't talk to me about any of this, and I don't think I'm alone in that. So I'm really honored and grateful for you to be here with you and you sharing your stories with the people who have come tonight. So we've got 3 amazing guest speakers. We've got Eileen Carey is with us. She's going to start us off, and then we have Danyele Belliveau. We've got Hung-Yeh Peisinger. And the way it's going to go for the people who haven't been here before is, oh, am I breaking up? Oh, I'm totally breaking up. No? Oh, I see myself really choppy. But anyway, is each speaker will speak for about 15 to 20 minutes. There will be questions. If you have any questions that come up, feel free to write them in the chat. And each speaker can either address them as we go, or we can have a look at them at the end. And if you wanted to, speak, there's also a little break in between each speaker of about 2 to 3 minutes where we can get a drink, we can stretch our legs, and if anyone wanted to actually voice a question, then that would be a good time to do it as well. I'm hearing some feedback. Yeah, are you guys hearing feedback?
Yeah.
Is everybody's mics off? Let me just check. Oh, I think Marianne, let me just see if I can. Marianne, can you hear me? I think your mic might be on. There we go. There we go. Thank you, Marianne. That might have been it.
No, still getting something.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Danyele, maybe if you turn off yours.
Oh.
There, how's that? Does that sound better? Yeah. So that's how it's gonna go. And I will ask Eileen to kick us off with her story. Thank you, Eileen. And I'll give you a 5-minute countdown, yeah? Okay.
That would be great, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
How long? So I have a few kind of things that I want to try to talk about tonight, and I may not get to everything or forget some stuff, but I'm going to give it a whirl. I wanted to talk about how I learned about menopause, because I didn't learn about menopause from anybody official. I learned about menopause. Well, what I learned from my mom was seeing her in the kitchen at dinner time, whipping her shirt off and having her wonder bra on, the cross your heart kind, and doing the supper just like that, because she was just like, she couldn't take it. And other times where she ran outside. We lived in Manitoba at the time she was going through her menopause. And in the middle of the winter, she would just run outside in the backyard and it's like -40. So I knew that getting hot was a part of this thing. And then as I got older and other women were older than me that were my friends, and they would tell me about the hot flashes and the night sweats and gaining weight that you could never get rid of, and sex, your libido decreasing, and all of the things. And then the mood stuff, being angry and all of those things. And to me, that just really sounded like something I didn't want to have happen. So I decided, rather than kind of get caught up in that story, I wanted to embrace it in the same way that I embraced being pregnant. Because when I was pregnant, as soon as you get pregnant, it was, at least when I got pregnant, people would say to me, "Oh my God, now you're going to have kids. Oh, you'll never sleep again." I'm like, this is not helpful. So I kind of thought I want to take the same tack and just forge my own path. And so I decided to really embrace menopause, and I embraced not having a period anymore. Loved that. I found myself not really having a decrease in my libido. So that was kind of a nice bonus. It may have actually swung the other way, which was fun. And I just thought that, I would go through menopause and I would age gracefully and I would just embrace all of it. And that was my plan. And then, I'm in my 50s. I have 2 teenage kids. I have an aging parent. And there was just a lot of push and pull. Plus, I worked full time. So life just got so busy, and my energy levels started, kind of decreasing. I felt tired a lot. Not unusual. I felt tired ever since I had a baby. Really, it's only lately that I don't feel tired anymore. But I felt really tired and I felt really stretched thin. I would say I felt stretched thin. And so my ability to manage stress was definitely decreasing. And I really could never figure out, is this menopause? Is this just like busyness and not doing enough self-care? Is this something else? Is this anxiety? Is this depression? And when I would talk to a doctor about those kinds of things, there was kind of like this, yeah, could be any of that, and so it never felt terrifically helpful. So I had some successes, though. I focused on, self-compassion and mindfulness, and I did have some success with that. I remember a time when I was in my kitchen and at dinner time, and this was, often the most tense part of the day because everybody's hungry and everybody's tired. And I could feel myself just so tense, and my neck and I was just like, and trying to cook. And I just stopped for a second because I was getting really angry. I was creating this angry story in my head. And I stopped for a second and I just thought, wait a minute, just drop all the words and just notice your body. And I noticed that I was just really tense. My neck was sore and I was tired. And so I just stopped for a second. I took a breath and I thought, I'm going to go lie down. So I went through the living room and said to my kids, I'm going to go lie down for a bit. See you guys in a bit, like 20 minutes. I'll be back. And it made a world of difference. Like I felt so much better. And there was no fight that I caused in those moments. Then there were other times that weren't so good, that I was like an epic fail as a mother. I remember a time walking out of the grocery store with my son, who was, maybe 17 or 18, 17 probably. And I can't remember what was going on, but we were definitely arguing about something. And he said something sharp to me. And I said, "You're being an asshole." And he looked at me and says, "You're being an asshole." And I wasn't happy about that. I felt terrible as a mom calling my kid that. But he and I talked about it, of course, afterwards, and we both agreed that we have these flash tempers, and then we still love each other. So that felt better. We're just getting a message. If everybody who has their cameras on could turn them off for now, just to save on bandwidth so that we get a good recording. Thank you. So I went to a naturopath. I went to an acupuncturist. I had some great help, but it cost, a fair amount of money, and I didn't have coverage for that. But I got this medication or supplement from the naturopath that was really helpful. Totally brought my anger level down, and I felt better when I was on that, but I just couldn't stay on it. It was like $80 a month or something. And anyway, so I ended up finally, after a couple of years, a friend told me about a bioidentical hormone that was a gel form. And so I actually had to go to my doctor and kind of talk to him about it. He'd never heard of it. And he gave me a little lecture on how dangerous hormones were. And anyway, I convinced him to write a prescription for me. And I've been on that ever since. And that was probably maybe 4 years ago. And I've found it to be very helpful in a lot of ways. So I've really appreciated that. I find that, the other part of this whole journey has been about finding the places where I need to change how I do my life. Going from being a very busy, mother with young kids and working and all that kind of stuff, where you just really do everything for everybody else. And we end up kind of being last. Or I put myself in that place. And I think that's common for a lot of women, certainly women that I've talked to over the years, and who I see for hypnosis for things like weight loss and stuff. They talk about just stretching themselves thin, doing too much, not being able to say no. Nobody else will do it if I don't do it. It won't get done, all of those kind of things. And so then we go for like a quick fix, like, okay, I'm going to have a glass of wine. That'll help me calm down. Or, oh, I'm going to have two. Or, sometimes people smoke. People who are smokers, they think it's a relaxing thing when clearly it's not, because it actually jazzes up our energy system. So the different kinds of things you can do, like overeating, distracting by watching TV, or I don't know, whatever else you can come up with. The things that we do that seem like self-care, but are actually just really quick fixes and don't really make us feel better. And there are times today, even when I still need to say to myself, is this going to change anything in a good way for me? Because if it's not, then maybe I don't need to choose it. Like, really, is sitting and watching 4 hours of Netflix in the evening going to change my life in a positive way? Well, sometimes the answer is yes, but sometimes it's not. And I'm trying to just be more mindful of listening to which is which, and trying to choose in a healthy way for myself. So that's been kind of a fun journey. I think that setting boundaries continues to be a challenge for me. And being able to drop my need for being perfect at everything, for giving a really good talk tonight, for learning how to do hypnosis really, really well and be the best hypnotist around, for all the things that I do, being the best mother. I spend way too much time worrying about ways that maybe I'm not perfect. And that could be hormone driven. That could be all kinds of things. But it's certainly a habit that my brain has and that I have and that I saw my mom have and my dad have. So it's ancestral in a way as well. And it's also very much in our culture where we have high standards for ourselves, and more high. Now the standards include how we all should be looking as we age, and seeing women who are aging who look amazing, but don't have many wrinkles, and they don't have the wrinkly neck that I have. And right? Then I look at, how do I perfect this? Like, oh, and for the first time in my life, I started thinking about, well, maybe I could get a facelift. Like, would I do that? And just realizing how much pressure we all experience or put on ourselves, certainly I do, about, trying to be the perfect woman and what that means, and how that doesn't really mean anything that's true for me. And how being perfect is just kind of embracing myself, with all my ridiculousness and silliness and mistakes and great things too. I do great things too. So it's just kind of embracing all of that. And so for me, menopause has really been this journey of deepening my own self-exploration. Oh, I'm getting emotional. I'm just so grateful that this time in my life came about, and that I was able to find my way through it. And while I didn't embrace it as gracefully as I anticipated when I was 49 and turned 50, and thought I would immediately, I'm going to live my own life. I'm going to make my own choices. Everybody else can look after themselves. No. But it was like rather accepting that that's an unfolding, ongoing process. And menopause, because my energy levels changed, because I wasn't sleeping well at night, I really had to just attend to, like, I actually literally cannot do all the things I used to do for everybody else. So there's almost an enforced break. Those moments where maybe you're not feeling so great and you debate with yourself, should I call in sick today or not? And you call in sick and you're like, oh, thank God I did that. It was those kind of things, right? Where you just stop and say, okay, today I do need to lie on the couch and watch TV and maybe read a book and then maybe have a bath and then maybe order out for dinner. This is just one of those days. And to give myself permission to have that. So for me, menopause has really been an opportunity just to open up to that kind of, I don't know, maybe wisdom, certainly greater self-compassion, which I really appreciate. And I would certainly say, like, as a piece of wisdom going forward, that self-criticism has never changed anybody in a good way. That motivating ourselves through self-criticism actually is not helpful at all. It's not kind, and it actually doesn't help people to change. There's scientific studies about this. For those of you who like scientific information, that motivation is best when it comes from a good coaching place. So if you think back to coaches that you've had, or ways that you talk to yourself, it's nice to land on the side of compassion or kindness rather than the negative, critical part. So that's I have imparted wisdom. You may take it. I think that's likely all I really want to say about all of that, Jewel. I didn't even get to my 5-minute warning.
No, I mean, I was going to give you 5 minutes at the 15-minute mark, because
Perfect.
20 would be, yeah, so you're right on time. It's perfect. So thank you so much for sharing that. Wow, a lot of it resonated with me. I have some questions. I don't see any questions in the chat, but would you mind engaging me in a couple of,
Sure.
yeah?
Yeah.
So you talked about increased libido. This is interesting to me. Um, especially as I'm a sex coach and relationship coach, and I often see not the opposite necessarily due to menopause, but I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that, if that feels okay. If it's like too much information, you know, you don't want to go there, I understand.
No, that feels okay for me. I think it was a combination of things. Partly it was, just embracing myself and being more confident and having more experience knowing what gave my body pleasure and having more confidence to educate partners about what I like and what feels good and what, really turns me on.
Mm.
So that was really helpful. Like just the quality of the sex that I have is just so much better than it was, when I was younger and didn't know enough to ask or didn't have the
Okay.
confidence to ask.
So maybe it's hand in hand with experience, life experience, and your boundaries that you spoke about, like having firmer boundaries, knowing what you need and want and asking for it.
Yeah.
That came with age.
Yeah. And there might have been like a little jazzed up energy about it too. I think that I've kind of attributed to menopause, and I've had other women talk about that as well, actually. Now, I don't know. I'd be curious to hear what other women experience around that.
Me
I do
too.
like to say it because a lot of women do talk about decreased libido, and I don't want that to be the only story out there because there's
No.
other experiences. So, yeah.
Yeah, it gives me hope. I
Bring
know
it
sex can
on.
be great in the, and maybe Hung-Yeh can talk a little bit about this because she does sex tutorials with her partner that I so enjoy. Yeah, and also another question I had, thank you for speaking to that. That excites me. About the bioidentical hormone that was helpful to you. Do you know the name of it?
I think it's called estrogel.
Estrogen.
But during our break, I'll go get it and bring it back and show
Thank
it to
you.
you. Yeah.
And can you talk about how you found it helpful, like specifically?
Yeah. It stopped my hot flashes, which was really nice. I used to have to wear layers at work, and I would just, as I was talking to clients, just start taking off my sweater and then my long sleeve shirt. And I wore, even in the wintertime, I had bare feet with sandals because that helped me to stay cooler. So the hot flash part was really clear. And then I don't know, this is like maybe too much information, but since
Nothing's too much for me, but
I've never had any trouble with vaginal dryness, which other people have experienced as a menopausal person. And I don't know if it's that or not, but I think it might be.
Okay.
But I'm curious to hear Hung-Yeh's perspective on that as well. So,
Me too.
yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And I know
Okay.
that my naturopath said it would help with things like mood and stuff as well. So,
Have you noticed any change?
I mean, all things are possible. Again, it's so hard to tease apart. Yeah.
Yeah. How's your sleep?
My sleep is really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Well, thank you so much for sharing. We're going to take
You're
a
welcome.
little break, 3 minutes. So I'm just going to look at my, it's 7:54. So 7:57, we'll be back with Danyele Belliveau. Thank you. Hello, back again. Welcome, everybody. Eileen. Okay, great. We've got a few. Let's see. Oh, there's some love in there for you, Eileen. Yeah. Yeah, the self-care. Never underestimate. Can I ask everyone to turn off their mics? I'm hearing some feedback. And because I'm not host, I can't actually turn people's mics off. The host can do that, but I won't ask you to do that, Eileen. Hopefully people can see if their mics are on or not.
They all look like they're off except for you and Danielle.
Okay, it might just be the fact that Danielle and I both have our mics on. Oh yeah, thank you, Marianne. The host can make a co-host to help. Would you mind making me a co-host? Do you know how to do that? You open the participants, you click that, you find my name, Jewel, and then there's 3 dots next to it.
Got it. You're in.
I'm in. Awesome. So I have the power. Okay, so we're back again. And oops. We're going to hear now from Danyele Belliveau. Take it away, Danyele.
Oh, okay. Hello. I was invited to watch this series from a friend of mine. And between the 2 first episodes, I was touched and a lot of things resonated for me. And I presently have been going through my own journey of menopause. And I realized that I wanted to speak because I think it's part of my journey as well, to open up and share things with other women who might be experiencing the same thing as me. I have a bit of a scientific mind, so I've got a few bullet points and just going to break some stuff down for you. Basically, I started my period when I was 13. And from the age of 13 to about 26 or so, I was in ignorance and resignation. Basically, I thought what I had is what I had. I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't change it. I was in pain. I struggled. Bad nutrition from a very young age. I didn't have a very good role model to learn about health and self-care. Therefore, I suffered for a very long time. And it took until I moved out for me to reach the pinnacle of being at my absolute worst. Poverty hit me, as well as the anxiety that was building from a young age had started manifesting itself in many different ways. Sleep issues, panic attacks, blood sugar issues, low iron, again, hemorrhaging 2-3 days a month, in large amounts of pain, taking large amounts of pain medication to try to take some of it away. I would lose work, and where I was working wasn't necessarily giving me a large salary. Therefore, the cycle of poverty continued. So I couldn't feed myself properly. And because I couldn't eat properly, I couldn't feel well. Therefore, I couldn't work the way I wanted to. It was a very hard time for me, and it became very difficult to continue that. I finally decided to move away, and I came to Halifax. So this is in my late 20s. And my self-empowering journey began because I was forced to find a different job that I thought I was going to get once I got here. And I started working in the health and wellness situation through a health food store. So I became self-reliant on reading books of nutrition and health and physical well-being and holistic amenities and all kinds of different ways of making yourself feel better. So through 10 years of trial and effort and trying many things and realizing which worked and which didn't work, I decided to go into the health and wellness industry and become a personal trainer, as well as a health and wellness coach. So it was my own journey, my own learning how to deal with my body that just happened to go, hey, if I can do it for myself, maybe by teaching other people, we'll both learn something good about nutrition and supplements and physical health. And it finally dawned on me that your body, your mind, and your spirit are all equally important to feel good. So I was focusing a lot on food, nutrition, and physical activity, thinking that I was, tickety-boo, doing it all right. And by the end of my 30s, I was in the best shape of my life. I had met my future husband. I was a personal trainer thinking I was doing really well because I was a good trainer, but I was not necessarily in the right field. I was never aggressive or assertive enough to go get what I needed to feel comfortable financially. So again, poverty was still there. I've never been able to pass that line. So I deprived myself of many things. I became very frugal, became very much of an introvert, and dealing with my clients became my high. And in between, the depression and the anxiety and the sleep issues came in. Got married, still feeling physically good, still couldn't sleep well. Thought, all right, I'm married. I've got 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 years of nice sex, a good relationship, building a home and a garden and all this. And at the age of 43, in the middle of January, sitting at one of my friends' birthday parties, my first hot flash began. And I went just like Eileen. I had all my layers on, this is how I felt, very comfortable in. And within 10 minutes span, I went from all my layers to my tank top and my underwear in the couch. And I was basically cooking both people on each side of me. And I was completely freaking out. I had no idea what was going on. And those hot flashes became a nightmare because I hadn't dealt with the emotional, mental part of me. So a lot of the hot flashes were actually from a guilt shame complex that I realized later on in life. Every time I felt bad about myself, or I self-criticized, or I felt guilty of something that I should have done or would have done, or felt shame for something that I thought wasn't good, the heat would kick in immediately. So it wasn't just hormonal. There were other things. So in the middle of working with clients, soaking wet. And I didn't know if it was excitement, if it was adrenaline, or if it was self-talk going on in the background. So menopause hits, and I start feeling all kinds of different symptoms. Of course, the night sweats, the hard nipples, feeling you're pregnant, the weird brain fog, the mental fatigue during the daytime, becoming more irritated with myself as well as my friends or my partner, some confusion. And most of it, I was going inward and thinking it was all my fault. So I would just keep putting on and putting on and putting on. So between the age of 43 to the late 40s, all of a sudden things start coming up for me, where menopause was never spoken directly to me. My mom had a very bad menopause because she had breast cancer. So she fell into it with chemo. And all I knew was there was hot flashes, fatigue, and grumpiness. Both of my grandmothers had breast cancer. Never had a talk with them. Apparently my mom's sisters all had menopause in their mid 40s or early 40s. Was never told about this. So I'm hitting it completely blind and starting to freak out. And the intergenerational stigma just kept following me and following me and following me until I was able to start talking to a few of my friends who were close to it, but hadn't actually started yet. Anger started coming up and I had to start dealing with it. And other things from intergenerational pain started coming up as well. Issues between me and my husband were reflecting things that were going on from both of my grandparents' stories as well as my parents' story. And I realized it was time to just bring these things out into the open because I was tired of carrying it. I didn't think that I needed to carry it anymore. It wasn't my responsibility because being menopausal, you want to get rid of shit. You don't want to take on anymore. You want to let it go. So that's what I've been doing ever since. And from my mid 40s on, cold water swimming became an essential thing for me. I lived in Moncton, so Northumberland Strait, 28-degree water was perfect for me. Coming to Halifax, freezing cold, working in a greenhouse at 45 degrees with a hot flash, you want to get home and jump into ice. And it just became something that is very dear to me now. So whenever I get a chance, I do. I'm not as diligent as you, Jewel, but I'm working my way there. As well as I did start losing my libido, which was really sad because I was a horny bitch for a very, very long time. And I thought I was going to be able to enjoy it for quite a few years with my husband. And it's been a challenge. It really has. Learning to communicate, learning to find other ways of becoming intimate, learning to have a conversation with myself of when it's okay to masturbate or when it's okay to not, just let the body relax and don't feel that you have to be sexy and you have to have sex all the time. So it's been a really hard struggle on that area. I am 51 now, so I'm going to be on my 8th year, almost 9 years of having hot flashes, and it's been about 4 years since I've stopped my period. So I'm really starting to get deep into menopause. And since January of this year, there has been a whirlwind of crap coming up for me. And I'm dealing with it as best as I can. Psychological help has brought me to deal with, again, more intergenerational pain, dealt with my anxiety sources, learning to let go and clean house, learning to release too many things. I'm trying to cut back on things so that I can spend more time with myself, have my little conversations with myself, have my downtime with myself, as well as still dealing with low income. So my self-worth, self-value concepts are still being challenged. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to resolve these sooner than later, because I would like to enjoy the rest of my years feeling stronger and more confident and not so mousy about certain things. So that's been basically my journey in menopause. And because I don't have siblings, I don't have children, I wanted to do this to speak up to other people so that the chain is broken. It's very important for me to let my family's fear and pride and ignorance and denial be brought out into the open so that I can be so much lighter and deal with my older age in a brighter way, because I would like to be anxiety free if possible. And I know that may not be really what's going to happen, but the fact that I know where it's coming from, I think it's going to help me deal with life a little better and be able to retire a little better. So that's basically my story. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to do this, Jill. I really appreciate it. It's been a good journey, and it's like little group counseling for me. Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much for your share, Danyele. Really. I've been poor most of my life too, so that really resonates, and I've felt a lot of shame as well around that. Yes. Poverty's real.
Yep.
And it sucks. Yeah, I haven't seen any questions in the chat, but I have a couple.
Yep.
Hard nipples, pray tell? Say again? What?
Yeah, that was really strange. There was a long story behind it, but basically I was dreading the fact that my husband was going on a vacation for 3 weeks. And because I was still learning about all of this menopause thing, my anxiety was very high. And being left alone to my own demise, things became kind of hairy around here. And my body started creating symptoms, false symptoms of what I thought was pregnancy. So as soon as he left, I started building up on this, and I had a hard abdomen, and I had very hard sore nipples, and my body was tingling a lot, and my mind was starting to swim. And I basically put myself into a tornado of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was that my husband and I had decided that we didn't want children. Therefore, things happened so that we weren't going to have children. And I called my mom one day and I told her, I think I'm pregnant. And she says, well, have you taken a test? I said, yes, I have taken a test, but I have hard nipples. My stomach feels weird. I haven't had a period in a few days, and my head is swimming, and I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. And she's like, well, have you had any scares since you guys got married? And like, no. Well, then how do you think that you would be pregnant considering what's going on with you and your husband right now? And I had to stop and go, well, if you're going to give me logic, mother, you can hang up the phone.
Yeah.
She goes, honey, I hate to say this, but welcome to menopause.
Okay.
This is all part of the body changing and the hormones changing. And I basically brought all this on to myself to distract myself from what was really going on.
Mm.
Yeah. So it was just a manifestation of like somatic problems, right? And it took a long time to go away, but it finally did. But that was one of probably the peak moments that was kind of scary for me.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So, because I remember a time when I was going through perimenopause that I couldn't wear a bra because my nipples were so sensitive.
Yep.
And it only lasted like 3 weeks or a month. I'm curious if other people experience that as a symptom of menopause.
I don't know, maybe.
Mm.
Yeah. I know that my breasts were changing because was also doing some manipulation to them. So they might have gotten more circulation than they were getting before, and so on and so forth.
Manipulation, what?
Oh, some manual lymphatic drainage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to get rid of the fibrocystic breasts, because I follow my mother's line of breast cancer.
Right.
I wanted to see if there was anything I could do to promote healthy breasts.
Mhm.
The three things I did was stop using deodorant, stop wearing a bra, and doing the MLD. And it made a huge difference for me on that end. I have better fits now than I did when I was 25. So
Oh, cool. I'm gonna check that out. What did you call it? LM?
MLD, manual lymphatic drainage.
I'm gonna check that out.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so if we're done, there's some love for you in the chat. Have a look at that, and we'll meet back in a few minutes. Thank you so much, Danyele.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing. Just another few seconds. Few things in the chat. Estrogel 0.06. Thank you. And where can you pick that up? Just any old pharmacy?
Yeah, it's a prescription from the doctor, so any pharmacy usually has it. It's just a little like pump bottle. Yeah.
Okay, I will ask.
It ends up being about the same cost as birth control.
Okay.
So you get a 3-month like dose or whatever, and it's
And it's gel, so you put it on your skin somewhere.
yeah. I usually put it on the inside of my arms or my inner thighs, just so it absorbs quickly. And
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that something that's recommended to take for however long you desire, or doesn't matter?
As far as I know, but I wouldn't claim to be an expert on that.
Thank you. So now we're back. Hello, Hung-Yeh. Before we jump into your discourse, which I'm so excited to hear or participate in, who knows what's going to happen? I wanted to also speak to Danyele, talking about cold water therapy helping her with cold flashes. It's something that I'd like to actually do a whole seminar on, like a whole summit on. So that is going to be coming up probably in the fall, talking about that. I'm in the midst of some research now. So let's dive into hear Hung-Yeh. Welcome, Hung-Yeh Peisinger.
Okay, just to how you say, to get it out of the way, I don't have any exciting menopausal story to tell personally. I'm 63. I stopped my period around 53. It just stopped. I was in Hawaii. I bought myself a Diva cup at age 52 or 3, and I never used it. I was a bit disappointed, right? I have the good fortune that my mother never went through menopausal symptoms. I have the good fortune that I grew up in Taiwan, actually in South Korea, and my mother comes from a long lineage of Chinese medicine doctors, and I grew up in a completely different medical paradigm. Completely different. I never have had antibiotics in my life till way later, when I was an adult, and I had an emergency C-section, and the doctor sort of talked me into it, said, if you don't take it, you get, you die. And so I took it for 3 days and stopped. So in having said this, I want to encourage every woman to feel that menopause is a completely natural cycle and phenomena of nature and of what we women go through. All the agony is a very recent modern phenomena. So it's not like it comes with menopause. I incidentally found on Instagram something really funny. So here, I played for you. It's just a few minutes, and hope you can hear it. I found it today and said, oh, they must listen in to me, right? Those media, because it's about menopause. So let's just hear it.
Starving after they have lost elderly mothers.
Okay.
Besides humans, I believe the only other known mammals to live past the age of menopause are 5 species of toothed whale: beluga, narwhal, false killer whale, short-fin pilot whale, and orca. And scientists have wondered why. Why keep a hag around, right? What's a crone for? If you look at the example of the southern resident killer whale, they live in matrilineal family units. Daughters and their offspring and adult male sons live with their mother their entire lives. Grandmothers in these communities can live to be in their hundreds, as we've seen, and they are the keepers of the knowledge about where the good salmon hunting grounds are. So much so that adult male southern resident killer whales have been observed wandering the water, starving, after they have lost elderly mothers. Besides humans, I believe the only...
So there you know. That says it all, right? And I think what we experience collectively, and I would be really curious to see if, tribal cultures, in cultures where industrial medical complex has not invaded our bodies so much if women actually really experience menopause like that. So what we experience recently, collectively, as females is, it's a result of thousands of years of development of messing around with natural rhythms on all levels. Does that make sense?
It does, but it doesn't mean that I don't have hot flashes and I can't,
No,
like, I can't sleep.
No, I'm not saying that you don't. I'm saying because you know, there's so many young girls, young women suffering terrible with PMS and menstrual pain. Infertility is increasing. Birthing is been regarded as a medical emergency, and menopause is pathologized. I'm saying these natural rhythms have been messed up with, and we are experiencing it. We experience in our body, and also there has been a huge suppression of women in general, and of course of males too, but it's brutal on women and women's body, that type of suppression. I mean, having periods is called having the curse. Remember that? And I think, so we all experience collectively in our bodies the pain and the suffering of the destroying of our natural rhythms and the suppression. And I just want to read a little story from a homeopath who worked actually with, in homeopathy, every poison can be your medicine, right? And she worked with the hormone estrogen as a homeopathic remedy. And so she began her search or her discovery of that, of estrogen as medicine with that story. And I'd like to read it to you. Once in the very first time, there was a land where women were respected, where women's business was women's business, and they loved and respected themselves and each other. The women lived a bit separate from the men at times in order to carry out this business. They were in charge of their own religion and their own bodies. They celebrated the monthly ritual of bleeding by the moon, and they all menstruated together. It was a time of high energy and creativity. The great mother goddess was worshipped. She was earth-centered and life-giving. The celebrations took place in the women's house that was called Tapu'u, which meant magic. When a girl had her first menstruation, the women welcomed her into the magic of being a woman. Her expectations were to celebrate being a woman. Her health and well-being belonged to their sisters and herself, and she felt powerful. And I was just doing a webinar on women in homeopathy, and astrological findings do, how you say, prove or corroborate that, 30,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, there was a sense of abundance and there was no sickness. And women had power. It was all goddess-based cultures, right? And then later on, it switched to male-based cultures. So from archaeological remains, but mostly from the fact that these things still happen with First Nations people all over the globe, in America, Africa, Australia, and the Pacific, about these traditions, right? People who have not lost their land connection. And then early anthropologists, missionaries, white men for European cultures interpreted these separations as being a banning, when women cloistered themselves away, and turned the magical world Tapu'u into taboo, which has become an everyday word in our language with quite a different meaning. We also know that women living together in groups synchronize the periods. There's an energy between them, the meaning of which we have long since forgotten. So let us get back to our story. Back to the land where time was told by the moon, where a girl learned of the tides within her body, which matched the two great monthly heartbeats of the earth, beats of balance between the full and the new moon and the Mother Earth. Time was told according to these beats: ovulation, menstruation, 13 lunar months, regulating the planting and the harvest, the conceiving and the birthing. So our cycles were in tune with the big cosmos cycle and the smaller ones, the sowing and the planting. You know, we were synchronizing, and right, that's really important. We embodied in our cycles the power and the rhythms of nature, of the earth, and therefore we were so revered as women, right? And then things began to change. The more father-centric religion took over the women's business, and elite groups of men began to dictate how things should be. Many people migrated and lost their connection with the land, and women were separated from each other. And the father religions called the bleeding unclean, not the curse. And the father religions took the newborn children, baptized them in deep cleansing rituals to wash away the mother blood from them. And father healers began to take over the management control of women's business. At first, this was only the women of the ruling groups who were controlled. You know, first the aristocracy was controlled. Poor women continued to be healers and midwives. Then the father religions began to burn women healers. And the earth religion was termed devil worship, and women were called witches. 9 million witches were burned in Europe, you know. Now, for those 9 million murders, much of the knowledge of our healing died. After that, women's knowledge was derided and called old wives' tale or idle gossip. The father doctors passed laws to make sure that the other healers would never be as powerful as themselves. Women's bodies became the property of father doctors and father priests, and women forgot their rhythms and their tides and their earth connections. Women were now seeing their menstruations as a curse, not a blessing. And the father doctors had finally got control, but they were not yet finished. The first surgical removal of ovaries was performed in 1809 and marked the beginning of a long and brutal history of excision, like cutting away, as the answer to women's ever-increasing bad health, you know, hysterectomies, all that stuff. And then, hallelujah, the father doctors discovered hormones. What a panacea of control. Do you say panacea or panacea? Panacea of control they had uncovered. They regulate our periods and fecundity with the oral contraceptive, which totally blocks our ovaries from working properly and tricks them each month with a false message. The very delicate and complex pattern between pituitary, ovary, hypothalamus, and uterus is deceived and jangled. Just look at the picture of the reproductive cycle and see the intricate rhythms of estrogen, follicle-stimulating hormone, progesterone, luteinizing hormones, and so forth. I mean, there's so much involved, and you only understand just a minute part of it. It is an awesomely elegant rhythm which has evolved over millions of years. And now that rhythm is being tricked and fooled with. The contraceptive pill. The pill, of course, when she wrote it was 1996, right? Then it had its 30th birthday, makes us sexually accessible at all times with no fear of fertilization. In fact, it often ends our periods altogether. There are no more eggs. When we are not fertile enough, we are given hormones in the form of fertility drugs to produce more eggs. They induce our babies with hormones, often only for convenience sake, which is effectively injecting our babies with hormones before they see the light of day. Hormone replacement therapy. They inject Depo-Provera with its horrible side effects into women whom they consider not bright enough to follow the instructions on the pill package. And the side effects are devastating, often causing flooding and pain. They give us the morning after pill. They can abort us with hormones. And now they've discovered hormone replacement therapy, which they say will keep us young and feminine and saves us from aging naturally. But the major boon to this latest revolutionary medical technique is that studies have shown that they will save packets of money on us when we are old, because osteoporosis is costing over 500 million pounds a year in treating fractures in old women. There are 10 million post-menopausal women in Britain, and they wish to see the majority of these women on hormone replacement therapy. It is seen as a cheap and safe preventative medicine. It is in fact being suggested that all women over 40 may be given it like routinely, right? And so forth and so forth and so forth. And we know by now that hormone replacement therapy is one of the major causes of breast cancer, by the way, right? It's like, oops, after 20 years or 30 years, like, oops, sorry. And so Melissa Esselem then, as I said, in homeopathy, each poison is a medicine. And she describes the picture of estrogen. And what taking it to repress women's cycles as birth control, or to give it as a hormone replacement therapy, what it does to our collective psyche in women, right? And it's a particular, we call it a particular picture. And so she feels controlled by another. She's out of sorts with the rhythms. She's living out someone else's expectation. She feels she's being fed off emotionally or psychologically. She loses her will. She overestimates her energy reserves. She's full of self-denial. She becomes a rescuer, addicted to rescuing people. She becomes drained. She has become a doormat. She's forgotten who she is. She has no individuality. She loses her sense of herself. She may totally lose herself in her relationships. So that is that is the picture of estrogen in homeopathic. Okay, thank you. So so from a holistic point of view, menopause or menopausal symptoms go way deeper. Then it's just like fix it with you know, with a hormone. Questions, please.
Did you see what Eileen wrote?
No.
Breast cancer causing hormone was stronger and made from horse urine, as I
Okay,
understand.
Eileen, thank you for pointing that out, and that you're taking estrogen. Yes, the newer estrogen pills are not as harsh and as the older ones, and they're becoming more refined, the pharmaceutical industry. My comment about that is, how should I say it? It is a quick fix, because like steroids, Steroids work wonders. You have eczema, you put it on, it's gone. Beautiful, right? It is symptom control. As soon as you don't take it, boom, what will happen? And that is always my question, looking at the whole person, is it's all blood pressure medication, and any drug that we take as symptom control has its price, because as Danyele said, it's actually a blessing. Our bodies are not stupid. Our bodies are the most supreme divine manifestation, and it talks to us in symptoms. It's a, hey, listen. It's like a fire alarm. What drugs do is muffle the fire alarm. It muffles the symptoms, and temporarily it can be a blessing just to get your bearings, but it's not. And maybe for you, nothing can be said is 100%. For you, it might be your medicine. For you, it might be perfect. But as a whole, I think it's problematic just to do symptom control versus looking, why is my body not able to balance why can I balance myself out? What is the imbalance? Where am I so overwrought or stuck, or whatever, that makes my body blow up like a furnace? What is the suppression? Because all the heat, all the fires, our inner fire, right? And we as women have been so suppressed. And so all the menopausal symptoms scream at us, wake up, wake up to your own. Menopause is where we wake up as women to our power. So we've given away our powers to all kinds of things all the time, For me, like to Buddhism. I was a devout Buddhist and gave my power away to my guru. God bless him. I'm fine. I'm mixing religions, but I have nothing but gratitude for my teachers. But I also saw, wow, I'm also gave my power away. It's very subtle, right? So in terms of
I really like that you're talking about how it's so much more.
Yeah.
And menopause is, like, to me, it is a call for us to step into something so much different. Yeah. And I think when women can really embrace that, and that, things need to change in our whole world. It's not just about women and our bodies, the whole world is on fire. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in what you're saying. And at the same time, like, how do we operationalize that, for the women right now? And what, so I'm just like,
it's an attitude problem.
It's a what?
It's an attitude challenge.
I was curious about whether or not there are homeopathic things that we can do, or.
Oh,
well, Hung-Yeh, you said estrogen was also used as a medicine. You said
yes, it's a homeopathic remedy. And if I read you, there are basically 4 different versions, chemical versions of estrogen. And one estridiol sorry, I don't have all the chemical names. It's the strongest, and that gives us all our female, the primary and the secondary female biological markers, the breast, the white hips, our cycles, and then the precursor estrone, blah blah blah. So estrogen as a homeopathic remedy covers all the menopausal symptoms. Do you understand? Estrogen causes lack of estrogen causes menopausal symptoms and can also heal menopausal symptoms. But I would never give it routinely, because there's always a deeper picture. As Danyele said, there's always a deeper,
Mhm.
you know.
There's a comment in the chat from Abby. She said, I realize there are side effects to HRT, and I completely believe that it isn't natural to need to take them. The problem is I was losing too much sleep and my relationships were suffering because of it. I made the choice to take it and still do. I am definitely worried about coming off of them.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's like any of these medications, you know, steroids, famous people with asthma, eczema, what you have, or high blood pressure, any of this keeps you like bound to this drug, symptom control, right? And so if we all collectively look and pray for a deeper healing, and it will come, you know, in whatever shape and form, you know. Some discover more cold dipping, some whatever, you know, it will come.
Thank you so much. There's some other comments in the chat. Do you have access to the chat, Hung-Yeh?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. I don't see any questions, but definitely interesting
Yeah, and
comments.
read cultures where women do not experience menopause. Yeah, so it's, you know.
Yeah.
And as I said, Eileen, it's like yeah, or Danyele, wherever there is changes in our rhythms, any change brings a challenge, because these fluctuations of hormones make us more sensitive, more transparent about our inner lives. We cannot compensate as much. We cannot barrel through, right? Business as usual. That's men, fortunately, unfortunately, can do it much better. That's why women, we are the wisdom keepers. You know, we are in tune with the rhythms.
Oh, if I could choose a period in history, I'd love to live, you know, as a hunter-gatherer and in tune with the cycles. But alas, I think it's time to wrap up, unfortunately, because it's this is a very interesting conversation, though. Maybe if you want to come back again, Hung-Yeh, and talk more. I think there are many layers to this. So I will close us out by thanking everyone so much for sharing your stories, sharing your wisdom, sharing your insights, your journeys. It helps me each and every time to deepen into my feeling of empowerment around this. So I really embrace menopause through these conversations more and more. So thank you very much for being here. Thanks, everybody. And I will make a link available in the next few days, and I'll send it out to everyone. Thank you, and have a good night, everyone. Happy menopausing.
Love you.
Love you. Yeah. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Eileen, I will, if you could stop the recording, I will